Mitigation and adaptation are both like components of your car's safety system. Okay, they're both working together to keep us safe from climate change. Mitigation is like the brakes. Mitigation is slowing our emissions or stopping our emissions of greenhouse gases. That's reducing the speed that we are approaching this problem. Okay, the more we can do to mitigate, the more we slow our approach into climate change disaster. Adaptation, on the other hand, is like your car's airbags, right? Airbags are all about softening the blow. You know an impact is inevitable. You know some changes are likely to come from climate change. Adaptation says, what can we do to prepare for that and do kind of a graceful landing rather than slamming into the windshield? Okay, so a little gruesome on the metaphors, but that's the idea. Mitigation, slow it down. Adaptation, soften the blow. We're going to divide the evening into two halves, talking about solutions specifically for mitigation and solutions specifically for adaptation. You guys actually came up with several ideas in each of these categories. We had bike less, we had convert to alternative energy. Those are mitigation solutions, right? We're putting less CO2 in the atmosphere. We also had move New Orleans. Right? We laughed at it, but that's an adaptation strategy, right? We know the sea level is rising, so let's get New Orleans out of harm's way, right? That's a far-reaching adaptation strategy, but it is adaptation. We're going to dive into mitigation first, and Robert is going to take the reins on that one. Okay, thanks everybody. We just changed people in case you couldn't tell by our voices. My name is Robert. I work at Michigan Tech for the Sustainable Futures Institute, which is our university sustainability research hub. And we bring together people from many different academic departments to work on issues related to sustainable energy, new ways to make materials and manufacture things, how can we assist in international development issues, and how do we deal with complex systems. When you talk about sustainability, you're talking about environmental issues, economic issues, social issues. That's a whole mess of data and you have to make sense of it all. So in the course of this, we do a lot of work dealing with mitigation strategies. We have a lot of scientists and engineers that want to tackle this problem, and a lot of the strategies that you guys yelled out and a lot of strategies that we all think of when we are in the shower and have great ideas fall in this category of mitigation. And again, that's reducing the amount of these greenhouse gases that we're emitting into the atmosphere. So we're going to take sort of a 30,000 level view of this to get you thinking about a range of concepts, and then rely on you to bring it down to the level of Houghton Hancock and Keweenaw. So Sarah Green in the first event that we had here on campus mentioned briefly some of these international agreements that are ongoing, and I believe tomorrow there's another one of these. I'm going to talk about briefly this Convention of Parties, or COP21, is the 21st such meeting organized by the United Nations, also called the Paris Agreement, where many nations came together. They all recognize that this is a problem and they want to make some promises to mitigate this problem by reducing their greenhouse gas emissions. Now, this is not that easy to see, but I'm going to try and bring up my cursor. So this was all about many countries coming together to make promises about how they're going to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And you don't really have to pay attention to the numbers, but all I want you to see is that this orange line is the trajectory that our greenhouse gas emissions throughout the world were on, increasing every year. With these commitments that all of these countries made at this event, now we're on a slightly more optimistic trajectory where we're at least slowing down our emissions of greenhouse gases. But we also know, based on the scientific models that Sarah was talking about, that if we want to have meaningful change and prevent some of the worst impacts of climate change that are going to be coming down the pike here in a few years. We need to get down to those blue and green trajectories where we're rapidly reducing the amount of greenhouse gases that we're putting into the atmosphere. So we've made some baby steps, but we need to do a lot more, and we need to be a lot more aggressive.